Good evening, everyone. It's Hanifa Menon from hearthealthbrainhealth.com, encouraging healthy grieving and mindful actions. Today, I thought I'd talk to you about a concept called fragmentation. And as you might imagine from that term, it means breaking things up into pieces. And if we look at this is holiday season, right? And I don't know when you'll watch this video, but if you're watching it right now, and I'm videotaping this in December of 2022, and we might recognize ideas of fragmentation that happen in the world. So remember, when we look at the season, why I brought that up is because something very interesting has happened over the past few years that I've noticed, and you've probably noticed too. It's probably been about 10 years that there's been this big stink, I'm going to say, about what are we celebrating. So, is it Christmas? Should Christmas trees be put up? Should Hanukkah candles also be put up and displayed? What about Kwanzaa? So all of these sorts of ideas where it became about fragmentation. Here's a holiday season where we're thinking of ideas like peace, love, joy, and it doesn't matter what anyone is celebrating, but hopefully we're celebrating those sorts of concepts every day. But this season seems to give people a focused time to focus more about these energies or thoughts or emotions or feelings or concepts that are inherent in all of us. Yet, because fragmentation, it has become kind of a habit and a pattern, people started making a big deal about I don't want anyone to ask me about Christmas because I don't celebrate Christmas. This is what people started saying. And some people started saying, well, I want people to say Happy Hanukkah. And again, it became this differentiation. So as we fragmentalize, I'll say, when we go through fragmentation, we start seeing these sorts of things. And this is happening in everything in our society, right? So there is a couple of quotations that I wanted to share with you about this idea. And I do want to make sure that in this video, we recognize how much this is happening. So we think about the world as a whole world, right? And yet, for many millennia, right? It's we've known that this is this part of the world, this is this part of the world, this is this part of the world. And that, of course, helps us understand it geographically and certainly helps us get to places when we're trying to travel. But it doesn't allow us to look at the whole world together, right? So if there is hurt on one side of the world, there is hurt on another side of the world, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. If there is healing and happiness and health in one section, there's the same that's going to be affected in a different section. And again, this happens energetically. You know that a lot of people watch news, and so you know what kind of news is usually on TV or the radio, and we hear about all the things that are not so good very often. And it's not necessarily in my own city, in my own province, in my own country. We will hear things from all over the world, right? So this also makes that experience ours in a different way now too, right? So not only energetically, now we're hearing the words, now we're seeing the experience, and it affects us. And then the same thing can happen with the more positive things that happen, but you'll notice that there's a lot less advertising about those sorts of things, right? So I wanted to read this first quotation by Mark Sheppard, which says, the opposite of simplicity is not complexity, but fragmentation and alienation. The opposite of simplicity is not complexity, but fragmentation and alienation. So let's think of this concept in light of all of this. We recognize that we as a whole are one people, right? We're one world. And let's say in a community even, there's a lot of awareness of where people are from, right? So I might say, okay, I'm from this part of the world, and another person would say they're from that part of the world. And it's so interesting that we're so caught up in, oh, this is where I'm from. Now, we don't often say, well, I'm human, right? So we all kind of take that for granted, but we start looking at those differences. And when we look at this, it does create this fragmentation, and it takes us away from simplicity, right? So that's one of the things. And again, we know that with this idea around the holiday season, we again are doing this fragmentation. We're not just looking at peace and goodwill for all, right? We're looking at these differences. I notice it in healthcare, of course, because certainly we can look at the body, right? And we used to think about the whole body as one unit working together, different cells doing different things, but all in helping the whole body survive in a healthy way, right? But now you'll notice the fragmentation that, oh, there's a problem in the heart, we work on the heart. There's a problem in the sleep, we work on the sleep. There's a problem in pain, we work on pain. And if there's pain in the knee, it's like this. If there's pain in the arm, it's like this. If there's pain in the stomach, it's like this, right? Yet all of this is our body, and very much we've moved away from looking at the whole and start looking at these fragmented pieces. Is this helping us? I'd say we're moving away from simplicity. I remember years ago when I was in a hospital and I was shadowing the healthcare team, but I had this great opportunity of watching a surgeon work on another surgeon during a surgery. And it was so interesting because it was a very specific surgery that the surgeon was performing. Yet, the surgeon that he was working on was a general surgeon. And the information that that general surgeon would know was so much more comprehensive, even though it's so interesting that we've almost tried to simplify that. Okay, that's too much information for one doctor to be carrying. So we break it up and we go through fragmentation. And now when surgeons are being trained, it's to this specific region. So they become really, really good in that specific region. But ask them about another part of the body, they don't know. And so we're losing something with that fragmentation, is what my point is today. I would love for you to sit for 5 minutes after this video and start looking at, how do you look at another person, another country, another course you might want to take, right? So again, even if you're listening to a video, if you're watching a video, are you thinking about, yeah, this isn't as good as this one? Are you doing that comparison, right? So I say course because, of course, education is always in my head, or often in my head. But if you're looking at, what kind of things are you looking at? And do you notice, well, this is what's different about this is better about this? Are we doing the fragmentation, or are we seeing what is helping me improve as a whole? So if I look at a TV show, am I looking at everything that's happening during that TV show of, oh, this is always lifting to me? Or am I able to look at, I'm looking at the news, and even if there's, 5-minute happy conversation, well, there might be 25 minutes of not so happy conversation. Am I looking at that whole and that fact that that whole is affecting me? That's important, right? So anything, and even, of course, your closest friends and family, do you look at more what is similar about all of us and what is similar about you and your family and friends? Or do you look more at, this is what's different about them, this is what I don't like, right? So take 5 minutes after this video and think about, how do you look at your life, and find just one particular area. I'll say probably friends and family is an easy space to start from, and maybe get yourself into that best space before the holiday season, especially if you're getting together for a fancy dinner or even a simple dinner. Make sure that you're thinking about, how simple can you keep things, or how complex do you choose to make things? And I thought I would finish with one more quotation, because I want you to know that it's not just that individuals have started doing this. We are also reflecting what's happening around us in the world, right? And as I said, I focus a lot on education. And I thought this was a great quotation too, just to share with you that this is happening from the school level, which then filters into our minds, which then becomes our society. So this quotation says, our universities advocate fragmentation in their course systems. Our universities advocate fragmentation in their course systems. And you'll notice this. I'll notice that when I went through my Bachelor of Science, and this was, a few years ago, only a couple of years ago, but I can tell you, when I went through the Bachelor of Science, it was very much about which part of science. Of course, we've chosen majors for a long time, but I was focused on neuropsychology. Now, neuropsychology was a Bachelor of Science. And if someone was taking just psychology, that was going to be a Bachelor of Arts. So you can see the fragmentation, right? Now we can get an arts and science aspect to both of these degrees, but we make it very specific about, well, this is a science person and this is a arts person, right? Same thing happens then after we come out of university, where we continue to do this fragmentation experience and process in our own minds of, how do I break this up? How do I differentiate people? How do I make things not consciously easy, but we don't try to make things easy unless we're consciously or simple, unless we're consciously focused on it. Today, I would love for you to realize that our schooling system has contributed to it, our lifestyles are contributing to it, our news is contributing, advertising contributes to fragmentation, and you individually might be contributing to this in your day-to-day experience. Today, at least for those 5 minutes, see if you can make your life simple. Look at something that you have a tendency to differentiate and perhaps make less easy, and see if you can start looking at the wholeness of the picture, the wholeness of the love that's behind most of our living experiences, and bring yourself back to that. I hope that allows you to have a beautiful evening ahead. And I hope you remember, transform your mind and transform your life. Have a great day, everyone, or evening.